Okay, we're going to call this meeting of the School Building Committee to order. Today's January 11. Thank you all for coming. The first item on our agenda is approval of the December 28 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, and then second from Steve. Are there any corrections? There was an original version posted that had the wrong person chairing, but that's been corrected.
Randy,
yeah.
there was a request from somebody who spoke to the meeting from the public that we include all of his questions.
His questions have been appended to the minutes on the town website. At least they're supposed to be up there. Yes, so those are available for public record. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the approving the minutes, please indicate. Any opposed? I will abstain since I was not here.
I will as well.
Okay.
I'm also abstaining.
Okay.
Come on, you guys.
Okay, so that brings us then to the opportunity for public input. Would you like to address the committee? And again, the microphone has to be up close to you. And please start with your name, your address.
Name's Eric Reynolds, 127 Wormwood Hill Road. The December 14th minutes do not reflect my public input. I'm not sure if that's what's being referred to as being amended. I'd appreciate that. And is there any follow-up as to the questions that I asked and the concerns I raised?
We can't completely get into a dialogue here, but I can't respond to you offline or by email.
Okay, that's acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then that brings us to the updates. Scott, we'll turn that over to you. And we have Brian and Steve who've joined us from Newfield. Oh, before we begin, my first update, I want to congratulate Adam Levitas on the birth of a son, Will. And when we see him again, we can extend our congratulations to him in person. But okay, Scott.
Thank you, Randy. Good evening, everyone. Scott Pellman from Colliers. I'll start with the most recent event. Yesterday afternoon, we had our end of warranty walkthrough. We had a number of representatives from the town, including Ryan and Randy, as well as the design team, Colliers, and a number of representatives from Newfield Construction. There were a few additional items that were identified on the exterior and interior of the building. We're currently compiling all of the warranty and final punch list comments into one master list. That's being done by Joe DiPaolo, another Colliers representative, and we anticipate having that issued by tomorrow. There was a commissioning meeting last Thursday afternoon on site. I had actually included those minutes with the information packet to the committee. Number of issues were gone through. I think it was a very productive meeting. They actually walked the site after and reviewed a number of those in person and made some adjustments. The mechanical contractor and controls contractor have been very proactive, very cooperative in helping to resolve some of these issues. I do say I think we're getting much closer. Again, you've got a very complicated building, and unfortunately, some of these growing pains are part of the process. But the entire commissioning team, contractor, Colliers, and the mechanical engineer were all in attendance and working together very well. One of the main issues right now is lighting controls, and the controls manufacturer and the person that knows how to make the corrective modifications is scheduled to be on site on the 16th, so next week. And then there is a follow-up meeting scheduled for all the attendees to review progress on the meeting notes that were distributed, and that follow-up meeting is happening on the 18th. So I'll stop there for a moment just to see if there's any questions on those first two topics before moving on. Okay, I don't see any hands.
No,
One question here.
one question.
Oh, I'm
One
sorry.
of the issues that has been raised at town council has been cracking on the posts, the wood posts and at the entranceway, concern about the
Checking.
well,
Yeah.
the image was a long crack. It wasn't checking exactly. It was a long crack. And one of the concerns has been the potential for slivers, which would include some kind of harmful toxin to kids.
I will defer to Jeff on that as the architect.
Yeah, I know that there's some requirements for masking and eye protection when you're working with the wood as far as the sawdust, but I haven't heard anything. And I think what you're seeing there is checking. I did notice some long checking cracks in there, but most hardwoods, after a while, they will do that. I don't expect that line to open up at all because it's a very dense species of wood. It's a hardwood that's sustainably harvested out of Brazil. So they use it on decking and other areas where you don't have to, paint it or maintain it. And it's meant to turn a natural gray, silvery gray. So I have not heard anything about that myself. So, I'm not sure what to say.
I guess I just to get a clear statement on the record though, Jeff, because I think this is part of the genesis for the question. The person who the mayor and I are aware of that has raised concerns, as the mayor said, and you just addressed on the sort of health and safety side about chemical properties in the EPA. They're raising the concern about we'll call it checking, concerning that EPA specifically, that given the density of the wood, that this would, unlike other hardwood species or softwood species for that matter, should not, if it's actually EPA, would not check at all, I guess. And I know you and I had a quick sidebar about it, so I think I know the answer to your question from our walkabout yesterday, but in this meeting, I guess I'd like you to say the same thing, which was, I believe you said, no, EPA will do this too. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I think if you look at my field report, I did notice, I forget which one it was, that I think what the town council member might be pointing to is that where the anchor support is, those plates come up in that notch. The contractor didn't cut that edge. They basically just ripped out the piece. So it does look like there's some residue of some edge at the top of that plate in the vertical position. But I don't expect that to start peeling.
The
so-
image
You
that we were
confirm-
shown is a long vertical
right.
crack.
It's a more, what I would say,
A
when
check.
somebody, yeah,
It looks
check.
like it's a check.
It's a
Yeah.
check. Yeah.
Jeff, can you confirm if the wood structure at the front is EPA or is it a different material? I know the siding is EPA. That's very clear. I just.
Yeah, it was both supposed to be EPA.
Okay,
It's
Yeah.
Scott, it's EP.
okay, thank you.
As far as the crack goes, I mean, it doesn't really hurt the integrity of it, just as you see in old houses here, oak beam will have a long crack so-called through it, but it's still extremely sturdy. And these are posts, so there's even less of an issue that way. They're certainly oversized. But I would like to suggest that we send the building department there to just take a walk around it to look for, frankly, safety issues as far as splinters. And if they think that there's a structural issue, which I don't imagine they will, but it's worth having them look at it in terms of, does this need to get in some way resanded or finished or something? I know that's not what you should need to do with this wood, but it might be a reasonable precaution.
I did have a previous conversation with our director of building and housing in terms of just what their more global perspective of the overall performance of the wood based on what they've seen. And this was a very, in the last couple of months. So I don't think the wood's changed demonstrably in that period of time. I'll be happy to check in again, but I can report in this meeting that there was nothing at the time of that question was posed a couple months ago, it's called October, that our director of building and housing at that time said that he was concerned about the way the wood was weathering or performing. You know, we've all commented on the sort of the graying, the driftwood kind of effect that's setting in, and that's happening in kind of differential ways depending on how much sun exposure it gets. But nothing at that point was sort of flagged as something that was unexpected, but I will check back in.
Well, and I do mention the splintering because that was mentioned in some piece that I read, a concern about splinters specifically.
Yeah.
Meaning getting your fingers, poked up in some fashion.
Could I suggest that if that image that we saw is correct, that somebody might consider filling that check or crack so that the kid can't put their fingers down it and get caught?
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of look at it. I mean, I think it's hard to tell from the picture. I think it is relatively hairline. As somebody with, timber frame inside my home, I see much more pronounced checking and, but we'll take a look at it.
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, yeah, so I guess Jeff, based on that last, if you can just look and see if there's any manufacturer or industry recommendations for doing some kind of a patch to an E-Pay, that would be appreciated. So moving on, there was a few weeks back, there was an apparent roof leak reported in the elevated walkway with the clearstory area above the cafeteria. Now, in the significant storm we had, I will say the roofer came out and they were unable to locate the roofing leak. After that initial, there was no building damage done whatsoever, which was good, just a little bit of a drip. After the storm earlier this week, the roofer came back out. They were able to actually identify that it wasn't in fact a roof leak, but it was a glazing, some sealant in sealing around one of the clearstory windows. So that's been communicated to Ben and Newfield, and they are on top of that, getting that corrected. When we were walking the site, we did see the stone cap that's slated to be installed on the stone retaining wall. We did get the PO issued for that from the town earlier this week, and Joe DiPaolo from Colliers is trying to get that work scheduled and coordinated as soon as possible to get that going. I did follow up. We have gotten all the paperwork in for the lightning protection system, still waiting for the PO on that, so we can get that work scheduled. The gym floor repair is complete. We actually reviewed that in the field yesterday. The finish needs a few more days to dry, so administration is doing their best in keeping that area closed off, keeping the kids out of that area. We are looking back or coordinating with the contractor. The green striping that was painted on the repaired area does not match the green striping that was originally applied. So Joe DiPaolo from our office is coordinating that. And Jeff is also working for a recommendation on a new saddle for that door area to transition onto the gym floor.
Yeah, I believe Bill and I walked through there and we discussed strategy. I showed him a little sketch I did while we were doing the walkthrough. And he goes, "Yeah, I got it. So I said, just call me if you need anything else from me." So that should be all set.
And then another thing we discussed yesterday, the kitchen sanitary lines. And again, this kind of came out of our commissioning meeting, looking at and following up on energy usage of the building. There's heat trace on the sanitary line coming out of the kitchen. And this is to keep that pipe warm, so the grease-laden waste won't kind of congeal and clog up that pipe. At the moment, that heat trace is on 24/7. It doesn't turn off. There originally had been, at a point last year, some discussions in an original proposal to actually put that heat trace on a timer. We reviewed it with the engineer, both at the commissioning meeting and yesterday in the field from Kohler Ronan. They're actually exploring potentially a cheaper option, but I just wanted to inform the committee, He calculated out if it only runs from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, which they feel is adequate. And then we have a device to turn off that that electrical load to the heat trace. It should save approximately $2,700 a year. We then anticipate with a proposal that it should be an approximate 2-year payback. So just to let the committee know, I'm working with the engineer. We're going to pursue that. We're not going to do that work through Newfield. We don't want to complicate things any further, but it would be done through AVS, who is also your controls contractor who, once they're done with this project, will be managing the control systems for the building moving into the future. So just wanted to make the committee aware of that. And then the last item I had on my list, after the last meeting, I did forward on options in the narrative on the acoustical panel information. And I didn't know if the committee had had a chance to opine on that or had any further questions on that for this evening.
Scott, I'd like to go back to your, we're waiting on the PO for the lightning suppression or whatever it's called. What are we
Yes.
waiting for?
We just need the W-9, the information, the vendor information's been submitted to the town. We're just waiting for them to issue the formal purchase order. So we can
Them,
get working.
the town.
finance.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Scott also asked about the acoustical panels. I don't know if you've had a chance to review that yet. The information. So I don't think we have enough people ready here to give you direction, Scott, on next steps with that, unless there's someone else that.
Do we have any information on how effective what's been put up is?
Not
Anecdotally,
formal
yeah.
measurement, but anecdotal information.
Right. And I think Kate's on the call as well, so she can weigh in, but I've heard that it has some significant change, not anything that we've measured. I know that when I've passed through, and I think Jeff noticed it as well yesterday, that just standing on the balcony, you can definitely hear that there's a change in the quality. Remember, it's not the decibel that we were so worried about, the loudness, but the echo quality of it. Kate, do you want to talk about lunch waves, and have you perceived that and staff members?
Sure. I think it's exactly like you're saying. It's a change in the quality and it's a deadening. And, we've had we've put the whole school in that space and it hasn't been that sense that you couldn't function with that many students in there. We're going to continue to look for ways to improve it from our organizational side, but we're seeing improvement because of the panels.
Excuse me, Kate, I did have a discussion with Bill when we were down there. There are a few areas, and I know he has extra panels near the entry of the service line there towards the main stair, above the wainscoting and above those elements that are on the wall. We discussed the strategy of maybe filling some more areas in there that might actually help in that, because I noticed that area right over the balcony when you come in is sort of the hot spot. So he said he would look at that and see if he can do that. So I'm hoping that was okay with you to just.
That's
have him
great.
do
We're
that. Okay.
not going to say no to more panels
All
if
right.
they're available and
Okay.
they can be put up.
Scott, you said you're expecting us to review some information about the panels. The last I remember getting that kind of information was maybe 2 months ago, something on that.
Yeah, there's really sort of there's two options, and I sent out the memo sort of outlining that. After the last meeting, I can resend it to the committee. You would have received it on December 28th, but I can resend it after this meeting.
That'd be helpful for me. I don't know what I did with it, if I've got it.
Yeah, really, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it really something that the committee needs to look at, or is it something that the administration and facilities people can just take care of?
Well, I think if you're looking for
Or is this all the classrooms? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay.
This is-
Yeah, it certainly has different cost levels. And so, I don't know, Peter, if you're ready to make a request on that matter, or if you need a little bit more time to review that and formalize a request to the committee.
Yeah, I think we need a little more time to look at that. But at some point, and I don't know if this is the point to talk about classroom.
Sure.
Okay.
Bring Brent up, we might not make a decision tonight, but let's at least put on.
My interest, Peter, just to, by way of background, is to keep this thing moving. Let's
Right,
just get
right.
it done.
Yeah, you know, because of some of the corrective moves in how we use the space, the number of people, and getting used to it, we're not hearing as many complaints or concerns. And so that's part of, you know, we're learning to adapt, and some of the changes have been helpful. And so I think that I just want to have time to sit with Kate, Bill, Alan, look at the different options we have, and then we'll come back to the building committee. But I did want to talk about classrooms. As the committee is aware, we explored a different product, a felt panel, that financially was an easier move for us to quickly put something up. Couple members yesterday had a chance to visit one of the classrooms. We feel that that's a great additional treatment to help mitigate some of the echo qualities of sounds on the main floor classrooms. And so one question I have to the building committee is considering the costs of extending that treatment to all the classrooms on the main floor.
I mean, I would be in favor of doing whatever we need.
And Jeff, were you able to go to a different classroom and perceive
Well,
any change in
Yeah, you and I went to that in classroom where
right?
the teachers were in there, and I did notice quite a bit of difference. I know one question I would have then, so while you're at it, I don't know, how many classrooms have you done? 2 like that or more?
2.
Okay, so you know that when you increase the depth of those panels, you know, right now I think they're 3/4 of an inch. If you go to the 1.5 inches, the next one up, if they have those, or 1 inch, you're going to get better results. But right now it seemed really, really good. So I don't know if you want to entertain, you know, belts and suspenders on all the other ones. Or do the same.
I'm not familiar with the product if they have that option, but certainly I agree with you. If we're going down that road, I can't imagine there would be a significant cost difference with that. But if that's a possibility, we should definitely explore that.
Yeah, I would check with Alan. I think he's the one that was ordering those. And
That's correct.
there might be an option on thickness, because I know that you increase the NRC once you get a thicker panel. So see if there's an option for that.
Okay.
In the pros and cons of the thicker panel and then the thinner, colorful felt panels that I believe Peter's referring to now, that option is at the very bottom of the first page and goes on to the second page of the descriptive narrative that we provided, that, again, I can resend to the committee again after this meeting.
It's a good point, Scott.
Okay. Other questions on other items that Scott has brought up? Okay. I don't know if Brian or Steve, if there are things that you want to bring up that haven't been brought up yet.
I have one more question.
Okay.
There's been a concern that the parking lot lights and the exterior lights are on all night. Is there a reason why that has to be? And has anybody talked about finding a way of turning them off, or is that a bad idea?
Those lights should be controlled by the building automation system. So I know Alan is on. Alan, I'm assuming you don't want those lights on full time. So if there's a specific time period you'd like them to be turned off, we can have the lighting controls contractor look at that when he's on the site on the 16th.
Yeah, usually, 1 a.m. or something like that, we'd have them go off and then come on around 5 a.m. But it depends on, outside light. So sometimes we adjust it accordingly, but yeah, definitely we have an off time on them.
Okay, I will communicate that then, that they should verify, they should be turning off at 1, coming back on at 5.
A question from Kathy?
Yes, I'm just curious, Tony, was this concerned by comments from neighbors about the lighting issue?
I don't think so. I think it was just somebody who drove by at night and said, why in the world is the parking lot lit up all night?
Okay, so we haven't had concerns by neighbors. All right, thank you.
Not to me.
Okay, thanks, Tony.
Also,
Also, the parking lot lights do go off at midnight.
Oh, is that Bill?
Yep.
Okay, so they are going off now at midnight.
Yes, at midnight, they're scheduled to go off with ABS.
Right, and they definitely don't come back on until 5, because we've actually, that
Correct.
was pointed out to me that somebody arrived at like 4:45 and it was dark, so.
Correct.
Dedicated employee.
Overachiever.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good.
Brian did have something to say.
Brian or Steve, anything?
No, I don't think so. We communicated with Colliers, just, please get us a copy of the, lists electronically.
Yeah.
We can start to
Okay.
go through them and, provide responses and get some things in action here.
Great, that would be helpful. Thank you. Okay. Seeing nothing else in terms of updates, project invoices.
Yeah, there was an invoice packet included. It had an invoice from Colliers that actually covered also a good part of November. We were kind of holding off on that until we got funding in place. So it's really almost 2 months for Colliers, as well as picking up some ones we've been holding on to from the commissioning agent, from CES. We wanted to see a little bit more progress from them. So we feel now that it's appropriate. There was 2 invoices from CES. The total package is $40,947.68.
Any questions? Mary?
I would make a motion then that we would approve the invoice packet dated today, January 11th, 2024, including invoices from CPL and CES Engineering for a total approval of $40,947.68.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Is there a second? Tony seconds. If there are no questions, then all in favor of approving the motion, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. The only thing else I've got is adjournment.
I'd make
So-
a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Second from Chris, then all in favor, you can sign off, or you can say hi, say hi, then sign off. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Randy, the picture